Hi, and thank you for tuning in today to the Delta Alpha chapter of Beta Phi Omega Sorority Incorporated's workshop today on giving yourself grace. My name is Tawana Patrice Mitchell, and I'm the current chapter president, and I'll be your host today. I'm going to go ahead and introduce the panel, the two professionals I brought in to help discuss this topic and to get us going. My first introduction is going to be of Dr. Burnett Burkett. She is, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit nervous for anybody tuning in. She is a family and psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, a graduate of two historically black colleges and universities, and this is the profession in which she works in a healthcare professional dealing specifically or specializing with clients that suffer from anxiety, insomnia, depression, PTSD, OCD, mood disorders, and adjustment disorders. We'll go ahead and bring her into, okay. Our second panelist is a member of Beta Phi Omega Sorority Incorporated as well. She's a member of 18 years. Her name is Shamira Woodson. She is a native of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and she's also working toward completing her PhD in marriage and family therapy. A lot of her specialized areas are trauma with adolescents and children as well. And of course, women's wellness. We'll go ahead and bring her into. Okay, hi, ladies. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for asking.
I am so glad that you were both able to join me this Saturday to talk about the power of giving yourself grace. So let's just jump right into it. Dive right in, get going. Okay. So, what defines or what does it mean to give ourselves grace? Right. The whole inspiration for this particular workshop or this topic, in fact, it comes from a very personal space for me, being the type of person who oftentimes find myself beating myself up over things. Now, for those people who already know me, they're probably like, "What? You do that?" Of course I do. I'm a type A personality. I want things to be done all the time. And when I got my hands involved in it, I try to make sure it's as successful as possible. And failure to me stops becoming an option. But it is a reality. Things don't always go well. Now, where I won't allow other people to beat me up over things, I will crush me over it. I will beat myself up over it, keep beating myself down over it, trying to figure out the hows, the whens, the whys. Why did this work? Now, the other side of that coin is if it was a friend calling me and they were in the same predicament, I would give them all kind of understanding and grace and ways to just own it and pick it up and understand that it's not you and it's happened. You can't change it, but let's see what we learned from it and let's move on and take a little time off. I will give them all kind of encouragement and allowing themselves to forgive themselves, but it's hard for me to do it with myself. And I started thinking I could imagine if it's hard for me to do it with myself, how many other women live this way? It's got to be hard for them too. Um, because though many of us have that example in front of us of this, woman really working hard, studying hard, achieving, or even men and our parents. We see our parents do those things, and I certainly had those type parents. But very rarely do we ever see them give themselves grace. So we don't always know because we don't see that example. So I thought this would be a great discussion because this one, I mean, for me to host, because it hits home in a lot of ways. And it's a lesson that I am forever reteaching myself over and over and over. So, with that being said, let's talk about some facts on forgiveness. It turns out that I'm not alone in a big way. Many women do not forgive themselves about things. Many women take it, we're nurturers, or we're told that we're nurturers just by birth. So we're expected to take care of everybody else, and sometimes everybody else before us. And if we're taking care of everybody else before us, we don't even have enough time to sit and take care of ourselves. and focus our attention on ourselves and make ourselves understand that we too need some time off. I'm trying to adjust my shirt here. I'm sorry. Um, and with that being said, let's bring our panel into this. What are some of the things that you think or that you can say that might be preventing us from giving ourselves grace?
I think if it's okay that I go ahead and speak, I wanted to point out something that you said. First of all, I appreciate your transparency,
Yes.
um, and saying that your personal experiences. But I think what's important for people that are viewing, or just us, us as well, to take into consideration what you said, is that it takes practice. So when you're like, I do this over and over, like, and it's hard for me to remember to do this, and I do it over and over again. So with practicing grace, or with just saying, oh, let me give myself some grace, like, how do I do that? One thing that we have to realize is that it's a practice, and it's something that you practice. And for you to say, I do this and I do it over and over again, or I find myself doing this over and over again. So at some point in there, you've forgiven yourself, and you do these things, it is a practice. And so giving yourself grace is definitely a practice, and it's something that we're consistently learning. um, I do want to point out first and foremost, just for people that are like religious and spiritual, how we say, that unmerited favor that you have, or that we're given, by, as far as like a higher power, we have to do that for ourselves as well. So we have to love ourselves. That unmerited favor, like, that has to start, inward. And so I think it's important to kind of bring that up, because those are things that, and we have a panel of Black women, so I can say this, or Black people, however they're presenting. Um, we have to keep that in mind, like, that we give so much of other people, that it takes practice to give those things to ourselves, especially if, as you said already as well, if we're taught to just kind of push on and to help everyone and to do this for everyone, but who does the work for me? Like, who makes sure that I'm okay? And it's
Yep.
practice. It just takes forgiving yourself, teaching yourself, and knowing what it is that you need. And I think we'll kind of get into that at some point as well, further with our discussion. Our discussion continues, but realizing and understanding that we have to, how am I going to give myself that grace that I'm giving? Because you're automatically giving it. It's automatic for most of us to just give that to other people, and really, like you said, kind of forgiving yourself for not giving yourself that grace, but then determining how to make that an actual practice.
Yes.
Right.
I also want to add that the word that sticks out to me is permission.
Mm.
A lot of times we go through life and we feel that there is a standard that we have to meet. We have to do this way, we have to do it that way. And we don't give ourselves permission. We don't know how to be gentle with ourselves. And I know for me, in starting the process of learning how to give myself grace, like, that is where I had to start, like, just asking myself simple questions like, why don't you deserve this? Do you feel like you deserve this? Like, sis, you had a hard week, or, you put in all of this time for other people and to your job. Let's take some of that time and space for yourself. So just giving yourself permission, just not to feel bad for taking care of you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that's a great start point.
I like the word permission because sometimes it just takes giving the permission to say
Yeah.
it's okay. Both great points. Okay. So let's talk about some of the ways that when we don't give ourselves grace, like what, if we're not giving ourselves the grace when we need it, how much of a problem does that become? Because it starts small and then it
Yes.
eventually gets a little bit bigger and starts to disrupt a lot of parts of our other parts of our lives. So let's talk about how the inability to give yourself grace, to take that permission and permit yourself to have that downtime, how does that affect our day-to-day lives?
I think one of the things that I notice, I work with a lot of women, a lot of mothers. And one of the things that I notice is dis-ease in the body. That can come up in a number of ways: high blood pressure, diabetes, you know, heart disease, things that affect our community especially. Your body will begin to tell you something is right here, or you need to slow down. Fatigue, things that we may just on an everyday just be apt to ignore, but there, your body begins to tell you mentally, you are just tired, you're annoyed, you are, snapping at everybody, the kids, the wife, the husband, you are just not a fun person to be around. You have to start learning how to pay attention, or be self-aware of what is your body telling you. Spiritually, you just feel dead. There is no motivation. There is no feeling of anything there. Doesn't mean that you don't believe in whatever you believe, but it's not doing it for you now. It used to do it for you before, and now it's not doing it for you. Those are indicators like, okay, it may be time for you to check in with you. And but you got to be able to pay attention to yourself to know that or understand that. And again, that is a process. It takes time, but just learning to listen to yourself and listen to your body.
Okay.
I also want to add, so a lot of what was just said as far as I look at those, I hear the things that you just said, and those are symptoms. So when
Hmm.
I hear that, I'm like, wait a minute, where are we going? I have a client that says, oh, I'm so hopeless. I just feel helpless. I'm worthless. I'm just, kind of at an empty, a dead space. I'm, sad sometimes. I'm fatigued, have little energy. I'm not motivated. I lack interest. Those are all signs of depression, right? We're
Yeah.
going down we're spiraling, right? And then when we start talking about like worrying and being, worrying excessively and, thinking about the future and what am I going to do if this happens? And those are signs of anxiety. So I think it's important for us to know and understand and see those things kind of happening because that's how people spiral. And when you are a person that's not giving yourself that grace, you begin to spiral.
Yeah.
So knowing what that looks like, and I'm not here to talk about depression or anxiety, but I do want to bring those things up because that is sometimes the end result of not giving yourself grace.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I see it a lot. That's why I end up seeing a lot of my clients that I see because they don't feel like they're in therapy. They're seeing their therapist. They're seeing someone like this lovely lady here. They're seeing their therapist. They're doing what they need to do. They may even be participating in some self-care activities. So they're doing what they feel like they need to do. It's just they're not giving themselves that grace. And so when that's missing, then people decide to look into other, at other things as far as, things to kind of help them from a mental standpoint. And so I think it's important to recognize and notice early, like kind of the early signs of certain disorders or just certain physically, mentally, when you're not where you need to be or want to be, what that can end up looking like. And so looking at practicing grace or giving self that favor and that grace can prevent it people, like I said, individuals like spiraling into something that is going to be a little bit harder to probably to not probably to actually get out of.
Tawana, I also want to add that many of us, not all of us, but many of us are taught from a very young age how to put others before us.
Yes.
And so when it comes to putting ourselves first, it feels awkward. It feels weird. It feels selfish. I hear a lot of people say that. And self care is not selfish, it's a necessity, you know? And so I think that learning how to show up for yourself, um, doesn't make you any less of a great mom or a sister. It actually makes you a better one. Just
Mhm.
learning how to show up for yourself.
I agree. I absolutely agree. From what I got from both of you were triggers. That's the word just kept jumping in my head. What trigger, like being able to recognize your own triggers. Like when you realize, okay, I might need to take a step back and do a little bit of writing or prayer or meditation or whatever it is that you do to connect to yourself to understand what's going on with you. Because I know for myself, when I find that I am, and this is going to sound really counterproductive to being productive, when I am over the top in producing whatever it is that I'm working on, I have to step back and start asking myself, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the way I mask a lot of times when I'm just not going to deal with a situation, not going to deal with whatever's whatever the situation might be that's bothering me. I'm not going to deal with it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sink all of my time and energy into what it is I'm working on, whether I'm writing or whether my job, whether it's volunteering, whatever it is. I will sink all of I'm the most productive person in the world.
Right.
And everybody is like, "Oh, yeah, you're getting everything done." I'm getting everything done because I don't want to do what I need to do.
Right.
So it's easy to do the things that are easy and will bring me a certain amount of joy. But of course, it's like everything. You got to do even more than that to get that joy back.
Right.
So to me, it's like you're recognizing your triggers. When you
Yes.
recognize what triggers
Self-awareness
you,
is so important
you
Mhm.
as we
just got to bring
navigate
yourself.
through the world
Mhm.
and through our relationships. Being self-aware, and I know that sounds like real fancy, real therapy, but it's just it is just being able to do a check-in with yourself. Like,
Mhm.
do a check-in. How do I feel right now? And you don't have to feel guilty about that. You don't have to feel bad for checking in with you. Speak positivity to yourself. It is your birthright to feel to live. It's your birthright to live your best life. Okay. And so in order for you to do that, you gotta know who you are and where you are. Gotta know what you can handle, what you can't handle. If you can't handle and it's something that you need help, ask for help. And I know for a lot
Mhm.
of people that's a whole nother show, asking for help, but doing little things, you know, taking time to get your favorite cup of coffee, show yourself that you love you, like just with small things. For me, it's a Saturday. Here's my love to myself today. I'm trying to do better. And so I got my green smoothie. And yeah, it might take me, 2 hours to get it down. But that was my love kiss to myself because I'm worthy of it. I'm worthy of being loved. I'm worthy of living my best life. And in order for me to live my best life, I have to take care of myself. And so it doesn't have to be these grand things that a lot of people think about. It could just be, I know here's a big one. Take that 5 minutes to sit in the car when you get home, sis.
Mm.
L-
Mhm.
Listen, take the 5 minutes. You deserve it.
Yes.
We all know what that feels like when you pull up and it's just like, I know when I get in, I got to do X, Y, and Z, da 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 da. Take the extra 5 minutes just to sit there and breathe for yourself. Like you
Yes.
deserve it. You made it through this day. Start celebrating your own personal small wins. Speaking love and giving yourself love every single day. That's how you start that process of giving yourself, grace.
Okay. All right. One of the things I found in some of my research as well is that the whole idea and process of giving yourselves grace or giving yourself the permission to fully invest in your self-care can be a cultural thing.
Mm.
Yes.
Okay. A lot of the writings, and this is one of them that I even had to ask my own therapist about. Um, I wanted to know, how often does she find herself meeting and talking with clients that, for one reason or another, just were they just don't quite understand doing the little things that keep you going, because that was not a
Mm.
reality for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's something they've never been taught. And oftentimes when they start doing it, all of a sudden they get a small group of people, not a lot, and maybe even one person that may even be telling them that, oh, that's for the white people, or that's for
Mhm.
that person. That's not
Right.
something that we do. So let's talk about the cultural like how do we come into that, knowing that that's not just for them, that's for all of us. Okay, how do we recognize those things?
So having that honestly starts with just having an open mind and being open to doing something new.
Yeah.
I'll say when you and the first thing that came to mind when you said that to me was yoga. People put
Mm.
yoga aside. I'm not doing that. That's a joke. When we start talking about doing, I'm trying to make this not definitely not too personal, but um, when we look at meditation, that takes 5 minutes maybe. When we look at yoga, that can take 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So knowing what those, doing research, like doing true research and knowing that what those practices do, like what the end result of those practices are, even acupuncture. I'll be the first to say, I absolutely love acupuncture. Well, a lot of people are scared of needles, but if you do research, then you'll know that the needles are very fine needles. And you find, you learn yin and yang, and, you kind of get to dig deeper into things. So I think the biggest piece, or what I would say the big takeaway with that, would be to have an open mind, and not things certain practices aren't for certain people.
Yeah.
I've done yoga, I've meditated, I have these are things I need to do more. But what I also find is that people don't allow themselves that time. Like, I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to do that. Again, these
Mm-hmm.
things can take a very minimal amount of time. And with the energy that's released, or with the energy that's picked up, and with the endorphins that, are kind of released and are active and everything, the cortisol. So you look at a lot of things, and it definitely, these things make you feel better. But just being open, mindful, and understanding what certain practices are truly, versus looking at a demographic of people that actually participate in that, is very important. People that, I don't know if you all know anyone that does yoga or meditates, but you can feel that. Like, like I feel energy really, really strong. And you can definitely tell that people are more enlightened, they have a more positive attitude, they feel better about themselves. And
Yeah.
those are practices. So we're going back to, like, practicing grace. We also have to
Hmm.
practice meditation. We have to make time for meditation. We have to make time for yoga. So we have to make time for those things, versus saying I don't have time for it.
Yeah.
That 5 minutes sitting in the car is amazing. Great. Like, I love that 5 minutes when you pull up, back up in the driveway. It's like, oh, okay.
Yes.
That five more minutes when you get at home or inside the house to meditate, it's not that hard. Um, but it has to be a practice. And I think that's a lot of, like, when I'm engaging in sessions with my clients, and even when I'm speaking with friends and talking to friends, like, exercising is something we have to schedule. Maybe scheduling meditation, maybe
Mm-hmm.
scheduling yoga, because those are things that are needed. If those are things that, you know, help, again, to kind of balance us out. So I think it's a lot of it is a matter of being open to that and learning the true
Yeah.
background and the history, versus, oh, certain people just do that. Is huge.
Okay.
I know one of the words that when you first asked that question, therapy. In our community, therapy is not something that was openly accepted,
Mhm.
at least for me when I was growing up. Um, a lot of our parents and our grandparents had very strong opinions about therapy. And culturally, it's because of the distrust that many of them have had with other cultures, right? And so then you get, little black girls and black boys who are growing up now thinking that they are, we could be therapists too. And so a lot of our grandparents are looking like, it challenges them even now to grow and to expand their way of thinking. A lot of them come from being raised in a mode of survival. And so
Right.
for us, I think the elevation in that is learning how to live. We are not just learning how, we're not, we have the tools that we need now to survive, but now we need to learn how to live. And if we are
Mhm.
being totally honest, a lot of them can't teach us that because they never experienced that.
Mhm.
They lived their entire lives in survival mode, trying to take care of their families and all of that things. And now we are blessed with the opportunity to be able to take that and to live. So a part of living is trying new things, being remaining open to different things. I teach teenagers meditation, and it's one of the, for me, it's a fun process teaching them how to get their thoughts together just for 5 minutes. That 5 minutes is a stretch for some people. But expose being being exposed to different things. If somebody invites you to a dance class, go. Zumba, you know, you're not going to find out what you like unless you try it at least once.
Mhm.
So just remaining open to trying new things. um that that thought, that voice in your head that tells you that, oh, only white people do that, or only, listen, there's a lot of black people who like outdoorsy stuff.
Mhm.
But if you hear certain people talking that, oh, we don't do that kind of stuff. Yeah, we do. We like hiking and
Mhm.
canoeing and all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Just get out there and explore and try new things. Find out what you like.
I agree. One of the quotes that I read in doing some research on this topic was giving yourself grace, allowing yourself grace means that you're allowing yourself to thrive.
Hmm.
And I thought that was probably one of the most, I mean, it's nothing that I ever thought about before then, but then I thought when I read it, it just made so much sense that and it ties exactly in with what you were saying, Shamira. We, we've seen our parents and our grandparents and ancestors in survival mode.
Hmm.
Now we have the opportunity to not just be in survival mode, but also understand that being in survival mode and being able to thrive
Yes.
and giving ourselves tools and permission to do so.
Yes.
It was one of those things. When I saw that, I thought to myself, wow, because I do realize that when I am softer on myself,
Mhm.
I feel like I'm going to accomplish more. And I feel like I can look back and see for years where um, ancestors, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, great aunts, great uncles, they were not thriving
Right.
in the ways that they could have been, but they
Yeah.
didn't have that luxury. But
Mhm.
if I have it, I need to partake in that and I need to show it to someone else so that we all understand how to survive and thrive.
Yes.
I thought that was one of the
Mhm.
most appropriate quotes I'd seen, or phrases I'd seen starting an article when I was looking all of this information up.
And
Now,
knowing and understanding that you are worthy of all of this.
yes.
Like, you are worthy of all of this. You are worthy of feeling good. Your body is worthy of feeling and being like, you're worthy of all of that.
Now,
So,
some of the things that I learned is that when you are so wrapped up and you're not in a place to give yourself grace, other ways that things can spiral out of control that you may not notice is your health. Your health can
Mhm.
spiral completely out of control. Being
yeah.
addicted to substances can completely take over everything that's going on in your life because it's a way of escaping the reality of the fact that all you need to do is say, it's okay.
Yep.
Okay. And we can manifest that in our bodies and hold it and twist ourselves around till it just stops becoming a mental struggle. Now it's a physical health struggle.
Physical. Yeah.
And now you've got ailments that you didn't have before, or you didn't need before,
Mhm.
and that you never thought you'd ever get because you weren't paying attention to those things because you were too busy trying to escape and run. And now you have to deal with a much bigger picture. And you're almost at that point where it's like, okay, you deal with this or you may lose this life. So let's deal with this right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So how does it look? What does giving ourselves grace, like physical, tangible things that we do, that we say, how does that look when we're giving ourselves grace? How does that look for us?
For me, it began with everyday practices.
Okay.
Everyday practices. Little small things that I could do every single day. I began to set boundaries for myself. Because for me, I believe that boundaries are more for you than they are for other people. And so I
Yes,
began to
of
set
course.
boundaries for myself. When it came to work, I have a cutoff time now that I don't
Mhm.
do work after a certain time. And that is so that I can properly recharge every single day. I sit and listen to some heavy stuff every day. And, I have to make sure that my spirit is right when I show up for my clients. So, in order for me to do that, I got to stop work. And whatever I choose to do, after that, if I want to sit and watch Ratchet TV, I'm going to sit and watch Ratchet TV, for the rest of the night. And I don't feel bad about it. I, so for me, it was the little things that I could control every single day. Getting up in the morning, taking that extra 5 minutes to meditate. Like I need that to start my day. I need to be in the right space when I welcome my first client into session. Energy is transferable, so I need to make sure that my energy is right. So it takes 21 days to form a habit and
Mhm.
21 days to break a habit. So I just started every single day. If I mess up, okay, well, let's just do it all over again. And I every day you learn about yourself. So for me, it was just the practice of the small things every single day.
Okay. Okay. Right. What are some small things that we can also have? We can tell other people to try out. Like what are some of those? The 5 minutes in the car. That's a great one. I mean, sometimes I'm taking 15 minutes in the car. I'll be
Mhm.
honest. You can get a
Right.
whole 15. I get a whole 15-minute session in songs, dancing, and personal karaoke in that car
You know
in
how
front
many
of my house.
concerts I have in the car?
I'm sure my neighbors are like, "Is
Listen.
she ever getting out of the car?" Like as soon as this song is done, and I've harmonized all I can.
Listen, my neighbors know. Like they know. Like, it's a covering for me, but like they know. I'm in the like I will put the windows up, the air. Look, you cannot tell me that I am not Beyonce's best backup singer in the car. I got you, sis. Listen.
So I would say journaling, like doing a somewhere,
Hmm.
especially when we're talking about grace, doing a quick gratitude, like get maybe a gratitude journal, or a journal just specifically for to write, gratitude, and things that you're thankful for and grateful for. So journaling is one I would say, and then we've already talked about like meditation for sure, yoga. Think about Pilates as well, but moving,
Hmm.
just moving,
Yes.
period. So whether that's a mile, whether that's a half a mile for some people, that can mean getting up and doing some jumping jacks. That can mean doing some squats. And everyone's into the squats. Everybody wants to, look okay as far as the glutes and the abs. We can do some crunches. But doing those things make you feel better in terms of like kind of get you on the right track to doing those things for you. And it's easier. Again, practice. It just takes practice. But definitely thinking about considering those are just a few things. I'm finding a good book to read. We were Shamari mentioned boundaries.
Yes.
Nedra Tawab, I know we're not promoting anyone at all, but she has an
Yes.
amazing book on boundaries.
She
Amazing.
sure
I'm not
does.
I read I done the audio book, so feel free. Don't feel any type of way if you rather
I
do
did the audio
audio
too.
book.
It
It
was
See,
was
giving
amazing.
yourself grace.
a great
You
Right.
don't
listen
have
as
to
I
just read the book.
rode in
You
the
can
car
actually
listening.
listen to it.
But I love that book, and I think it opened up a lot of just kind of mental doors for me, and it just made me say, you know what, your boundaries, you got to work on your boundaries. And so I know we've got a question that's been sitting here that said, how do you release the guilt of putting yourself first? Having those boundaries and setting those boundaries, but also keeping in mind that I can't do anything for anyone else
That's right.
on this earth unless I'm taking care of myself. So
Me.
physically, we're talking about physical ailments, mental, emotional, from any kind of standpoint. Like if we're not taking care of ourselves, we can't take care of anyone else. So I definitely, and I think that's where we, especially as Black women, we feel guilty taking care of ourselves. I may feel guilty because I'm over here and meditating while my 15-year-old is like, Mom, like, what's for dinner? Well,
Right.
son, today it might be on you. Like, or you got to wait 10 minutes until I finish this. Or,
That's right.
partners, family, loved ones needing things at a certain time. Establishing those boundaries and taking care of self and doing those things for self make you so much better for self, but it also makes it so much easier to do those things that you need to do for other people or to not, because it's okay to say no. So that question is a little difficult to answer because that's going to be more so of an internal like work that takes work all day
Right.
every day. But whoever put the question in the chat, if you haven't, excuse me, if you haven't checked out the book on boundaries, that's the one I would tell you to listen to or to check out, because I feel like, as again, as Black women, where it's easy for us to feel guilty for not doing every single thing for the next person that they want or that they need, but also realizing that, in me setting this boundary, like I have to absolutely take care of myself. And
Myself.
this is what this looks like. So, that guilt may be there. That guilt's probably going to be there to a certain extent, but it's easier and it gets easier. And so being proactive and knowing that this is what, being proactive versus reactive, and recognizing that this could lead to these feelings versus addressing those kind of ahead of time and knowing that this makes me feel a certain way. So again, another thing that takes practice. That's a very good question, but that's something again that takes practice. And I think boundaries and guilt, they kind of go hand in
Hand in
hand.
hand.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm a big, big, big cheerleader for boundaries. I mean, I think my mother always said my first word was no. Um, but I am really good at setting boundaries and honoring them, especially when if I decide to continue friendships, relationship, even family relationships, where we're still going to be in contact with each other, but you need to know how far you can go with me. And I'd
mhm,
stop you in your tracks if you're going too close to an area that I don't need you in. Again, it's a gift and a curse in a way. One of the things that I am good for is I won't allow other people to beat me up. But because I do it enough, I can do it enough. I'm good on this part, so you can't do it. You can't join in on the
mhm,
fun. And I have a tendency to do that, and I know that, and I'm learning that. You know, it's okay not to beat myself up over things that are not in my control.
That's right.
That I can give myself the permission to say, you know what, I don't want to do this, and I'm not gonna do this.
mhm,
I'm going to go do
mhm,
something else.
That's
And
right.
to me, it always comes in the form of promises to me. Because I always say I'm never going to lie to myself or break my own promises to myself. So, promises to myself is today you'll do this. Today, in the course of all the things you have to do, you're going to pick out 15 minutes of your time to go do this,
Right.
to do that. And I do it. Even if sometimes I'm doing it at 11:45 at night before midnight hits and
That's
I
right. That's right.
I'm getting it in and I'm getting it done. And that might mean it might look differently to other people, but I'm learning to I'm keeping the promise to myself and I'm learning to give myself grace for whatever the situation is arising at that moment. Okay? And that is something I think that, like you said, it's going to look different for everybody and it's going to appear different for everybody. But there are things that I know that we can do and we should do. And sometimes you just have to know what works for you
Yeah.
because yoga may not be your thing, running might.
Right.
mhm,
It's not my
mhm.
ministry, but
Mine
it might not
either.
look the same.
Mine's
It's
either.
right. That's just not my ministry. It's not.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Now, releasing the guilt of putting yourself first, that's an easy one for me when somebody else is trying to make me feel guilty. I don't let other people make me feel guilty about the choices that I make. Because
That's
if I had to make this choice, it took me a minute to get there. So you can't make me feel guilty about it.
right.
Even after I've set a boundary, I don't waver. because I
Mhm.
know it's in place to protect me. And I do fully believe that until I can take care of me, I can't take care of you.
That's right.
Now, that will that gets a little fuzzy sometimes when circumstances come up, you're in relationships and your feelings are kind of like, okay, well, in order to show that I care, I should do this or I should appear. And then eventually it snaps back into reality. That's not me. It's not my personality.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think so here's the way I want to say it. There's only one you. That spot can be filled by anybody else. I don't care if you have a twin, I don't care if you're part of a triplet. There is only one you. Play your role. And so I know for me, I had to remind myself that if you don't take care of you, there is nobody else that is going to take care of you but you. And so if you are feeling guilt around taking care of yourself, you got to ask yourself why. Like, again, it goes back to before you get to anybody else, there is you. And if you can't take care of you, I can't trust you to take care of anybody else. Not your spouse, not your children, not, I can't. I believe that, and I tell my parents all the time that we are walking, living, breathing examples. It's our job to teach others how to love us. And if you don't know how to love you, you can't expect for anybody else to know how to love you. I don't know who need to hear this, but somebody need to start eating lunch. Like, it's the little things literally that we go through every day. You know, why are you not feeding yourself properly? You know, Big Mama got her leg cut off because she had diabetes. But
Mhm.
yet and still, you are still binging on ice cream. I'm not saying that you don't deserve a snack, but pick a healthier snack. Maybe let's just have some grapes. Maybe we only have ice cream once a week. For us here in the north, it's the summertime. I have to watch, like, Shammy, you can't have gelatos every day. You can't, like, come on, sis, you got to break that up. So just little things, and knowing that I'm doing that to live better. I'm doing that to take better care of myself so that I can go a step farther than my mom went, or my grandmom went. And when I think when you start when you start learning how to increase your self-love for yourself, like, that's a personal journey. The guilt and the shame that you may experience won't hold as much weight. Eventually they'll be gone, but they won't hold as much weight as you begin to every single day. Listen, talk to me nice. Talk to yourself nice, positive affirmations. What are you feeding yourself? When I get in the car in the morning, yeah, I got my ratchet songs that I put on to get me pumped. But when you feel like you're feeling bad, what's the song you go to remind yourself? Because sometimes we just need reminders. What's the song that you put on to remind yourself that, listen, you got this. You got this. You gonna get through it. It's not as hard as you really think.
Okay.
So I think little practical things like that.
And
Let's
can
do
I
it.
add,
Oh,
I
I'm
just
sorry.
want to add too, it depends on, so what you said as far as the why, I think that's very, very important, but also because this is a, a kind of a loaded question. And I only say that because if someone's making you feel guilty because you're going back and forth with someone or something or people, then that looks very different from finding just the why that's stemming from. Is that something that's stemming from, when you wake up in the morning, you're doing this for yourself, you feel guilty? Or is it stemming, or is it something, okay, when I do this for myself, I feel guilty because individuals make me feel this way? So I think it really depends on why. So the why, as you were saying, that is very important on figuring out the actual why and going
Mm-hmm.
from there. And then, you know, offering, just surrounding that, offering yourself grace surrounding whatever your why is and working on that and moving forward, whether it's just self that you're working on that with, you're working on with a therapist. But there's a lot, it kind of depends on the where the guilt is stemming from.
Yeah.
What's kind of stirring it up. So I'm sorry, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah.
Very good point.
Yes. Okay. So let's take a question. What does it mean to give yourself some space?
Chill the hell out. I think sometimes we make things more difficult than it has to be. When's the last time you took a bath versus a shower? Because showers are about convenience and all those things. But when's the last time you took a bath? When's the last time you just sat and put your feet up? Or read a book, or sit outside and got some air, or when's the last time you actually walked the dog? You didn't just let the dog out into the backyard, but you actually put the leash on the dog and took the dog for a walk. Chilling out. Learn how to chill out. A lot of us we're on, especially as Black women, we are on all the time. We're moms, we are professionals, we are students, we are wives, and sometimes we just need to be able to take it all off.
Okay.
I think
Now,
recognizing what that space, like what you're giving yourself space from, sometimes will direct you in the way in which you go
Yes,
to
that's
get the
important.
space. So if I need space from work, well, I'm not going to try to kick back and do some of the things that Shamara just said at work, right? I need
Right.
to do those
right.
things at
At
home or
home.
in the process. So I think it's important to space is space. Space is relative to the person. So what is it that you need space
Right.
from?
Yeah, I agree. Because you can't relax at home if home is causing you stress. You can't
Mhm.
relax at work if work is causing you stress. So
Mm-hmm.
you sometimes need to remove yourself from that area and just sometimes when it gets too much and too many people, just go have lunch in the park.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So one of the questions that came in, and because we're toward the end now, was is grace a religious thing?
I don't think so.
Giving yourself grace a religious thing?
I think it can be, but so I opened up with I was giving the example when I said that about like religious versus like spiritual. This is where you hear grace because that's a lot of times where people actually hear it. It's not. It's definitely not spiritual or religious. To
Okay.
it can be. To
Yeah.
me, it
Yes.
is, but it isn't. So now, what we're talking about as far as giving yourself grace now, absolutely not.
Right.
Unless giving yourself grace lines, is kind of in alignment with your spiritual and your religious beliefs, and that's something that's going to assist you in offering yourself or giving yourself grace, then yes, that could very well be. But as far as like the topic, and where you all just back me if I'm wrong, or correct me if I'm wrong. That's not what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just being
Um,
nice to self is how I usually explain it. Like when I'm talking to my clients, I'm like, and my friends or just whoever, I'm just like, be nice. Just be nice. Be nicer to
Yes.
yourself.
So
We
nice
haven't
to
talked about
me.
sleep, right? We haven't talked about sleep. Sleep is important. We've talked a little bit
Yes.
about eating, but proper nutrition, sleeping, that's being nice to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Those things are,
right.
stopping what you're doing for this person, stopping at work, eating lunch, like, we said, or like Shamar mentioned, eating, grabbing some. I'm not a breakfast eater. I don't have time. Honey, you can boil some eggs while you're in the shower,
That's
or you
right.
can boil some water right after you get out of the shower, eat you some oatmeal, grab you a bar, like you feed yourself.
Yes.
So definitely not spiritual, in this sense.
Okay. All right. We are at the very end going to wrap it up. So now we're going to talk about some affirmations. What are some positive affirmations you can give yourself as you start to embrace giving yourself that grace? What are some of those positive affirmations?
I am worthy. That's the one that always sticks out to me. Um,
Yes.
a lot of people struggle with understanding that they are worthy of good things, the good in life. You've experienced the bad, but you are also worthy of the good. So that for me, so I'm gonna show you guys something. I love my sores, but we did an activity at one of our wellness retreats. And so I keep this in front of me every single day to remind me of those little points. Like, I'm worthy. It's my birthright to be happy. This joy that I have, like, the world didn't give it to me and they can't take it away. Just little things that just feed your spirit and your soul, to remind you. I call them little reminders. Like,
Mhm.
so for me, yeah, I'm worthy. That's my go-to. I'm worthy of it all.
I'll say I deserve,
Yes.
um, which,
That's one of
I'm worthy, I deserve kind of can sort of go hand in hand, but reminding self that you deserve whatever positive it is coming to you.
yes.
Also looking at not always, things aren't always the best, like realizing that things you're not always going to feel like, oh, I'm worthy, I deserve. You're not always going to feel like saying that to yourself.
Mhm.
So on the other end of that, it will be okay. Whatever it is you're struggling with, if you're struggling with the guilt of putting yourself first, or you're struggling with just life in general, it will be okay. Um, just anything that helps to kind of just push you, and lead you throughout the day. But I definitely, I'm worthy, I deserve, it will be okay, I'm going to be all right.
Mhm.
Um,
For some people, I think so. Like, how do I want to say this? Um, it's a struggle to understand, like, that feeling of um like, what happens when I don't feel it. Like,
mhm,
like you said, when life is happening, like, what happens when I don't feel it? Like, how do I still remain positive? And I know one of the ones that works for me is that I have everything that I need.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
Just reminding myself I have everything that I need. Even if physically what you see on the outside may not match what you're saying,
mhm,
know that internally, every single thing that you need to get through whatever it is that you're facing, you already have it.
mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
I think my affirmation generally, and I say this almost every morning, actually right after morning prayers. First thing I say to I owe myself. I
Mm.
owe it to myself. And what it might be may not, I don't know at that point, but whatever it is, I owe it to myself.
Mhm,
I owe it to myself to be happy. I owe it to myself to take care of myself. I
Yeah.
owe it to myself to spend 15 minutes lotioning every part of my body when I get out of the shower because this is my skin
mhm,
Yeah.
and I want it to feel good. And while I'm doing it, I'm being thankful for all the parts of my body that work exactly the way I need them to work, and for those who are trying to join us. Okay,
Right.
so what? That's my favorite one. I say I'm worthy. I say I deserve, but I always tell myself I owe it to myself.
Yeah.
I owe this to myself. And
I
so
I
forgive
think
I
myself.
remember that.
yeah,
That's another
yeah.
one. I forgive myself.
Mhm.
Yes,
I'm
Sometimes,
trying my best is also one.
yeah.
Like, I'm
yes,
trying my best. I have everything I need, right?
Yep.
I'm trying my best. This is what I'm doing with what I have. I'm trying.
Yeah.
So just
exactly.
giving yourself grace for trying to do those things,
Yeah.
Yeah,
for
give yourself
thinking
that
about
grace.
meditating.
Yeah.
That's kudos,
Right.
right? I thought about it.
That was one
Maybe
step
tomorrow
closer
I'll
than
do
you
it.
were yesterday.
Right, one step closer. It's once if it's still in your head, that's one step closer to where you're going, right?
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
I do
Okay.
want to say, I do want to say one more thing. I think it's important to, Shamira was saying that she, you stop working at a certain time. I kind of just stop. I don't necessarily at a certain time. I just stop working, and I'm like, you know what? I need to go for a walk. So
Mm-hmm.
again, moving. I think I can't stress enough that
Yeah.
moving is very important. Whether it's any type of physical activity. I know Swan, you said not running, but some
Not
people
running.
they may want to walk, but just, that is trying that's part of trying your best. Again,
Yeah.
you have everything you need, but what you're going to do with that is the most important. So do what you need to do with having everything you need, or do, and slowly, it's a practice. So practice doing something different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that running. Can't do the running. Won't do the running.
Listen,
It's
somebody's
nothing I
dog is
can't.
gonna
I just
thank them.
refuse to do it. It's just something I never liked ever. But
Somebody's
everything
gonna
else
run
I
it
got.
today.
But that running, no, that's not gonna happen over here. Okay. But I absolutely agree. Okay, final thoughts. Final thoughts on give the power of giving yourself grace. What we got?
Just try it.
Yeah.
Just try it.
Be nice. Be nice to yourself just as much as
Yes.
you're nice to others. That niceness that we offer, give that to yourself. Try to give that to yourself. It feels really good.
Yeah.
And it's a practice. It's something to try. So what we
Yep.
give to others, give that to yourself and look at the outcome. It'll look and it'll feel different.
Yeah.
Yes. And when you get lost in the middle of it, start again.
That's right.
There is no harm in starting again. I am constantly teaching myself to give myself that grace. I
Yeah.
find that I'm constantly doing that. Every time life throws a curveball, every time things get to be too much, every time there's more to do than less to do, every time I find myself being way more productive than I need to be, I start thinking about, okay, what do I need to start over again? What do I need to stop again? What do I need to remember again?
Mhm.
All of those things. And sometimes it just might mean I need to take my time,
Yeah.
sit down, go in the back, dig in my garden, sit down with a great book, like get out of
Or
the mode of going,
do
going, going.
nothing.
Or do nothing.
And
Yes.
It's
sometimes,
okay to do
exactly,
nothing.
do
What are you doing?
nothing.
Nothing. I
Yeah.
nothing. Like when people ask like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Nothing, nothing,
Like, what do
nothing."
you mean you're doing nothing?
It's okay for me to do nothing.
I
I'm not
scheduled to do
scrolling.
nothing today.
I'm just looking, staring out the window.
Hmm.
Nothing. So it's definitely
Exactly.
it's okay to say nothing. We don't always have to be doing something. So again, like
Yes,
offering
we
that
Yeah.
don't
grace.
always have
It's
to.
okay to sit and do nothing. It's okay to be Beyonce's background singer in the car.
I
That's
be
something.
I'm
That's
giving the
something.
business in my concerts. I'm trying to tell y'all.
That's something. That's
Okay?
something. That's not
I am
nothing. I'm sorry.
everybody's guest rapper on everybody's song. I got him. I'm everybody's guest rapper, okay? I'm from Miami, so all the rap here that's absolutely over the top and just
Tawana got
flipping a
bars.
ratchet. Yes, I got it. I'm everybody's guest rapper, okay?
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining me in this topic.
Yes,
And
this
I'm
was
really
great.
hoping
Absolutely.
for those of you who tuned in that this resonates with you, that this is something that even if it didn't resonate when you came in or you were just here because you were curious about what was this going to be about, that you came in with that curiosity and something here touched you, reached you, put a bug in you, put a word in you, or really gave you a place where you can say, you know what, I need to start doing these things for myself. And don't feel like you have to rush and do them all at once. Don't overwhelm yourself.
Yeah.
Okay? Start small. If you don't
Mhm.
like journaling and you want to journal, start with just two sentences to start off with. Start writing letters to people, write letters to
Yeah.
yourself, write letters to mom, to dad, or write off things that are already inside of you that you need to get off your chest so you can get to
Mhm.
a place of forgiving yourself. Write that out because you may not get it from someone else. And that's
Yeah.
okay. It's not for them, it's for you.
That's right.
Okay. And the sooner we move toward that and realizing that that's all of those things are for us, that's when we really embrace that power. That's when we really, and again, like I said before, if you fall short, that's okay. Every one of us have said this. We fall short, start again.
Start again.
It is
Mhm.
okay. Give yourself permission to start again because failure only means you figured out what didn't work the first time.
That's right.
So now, if we start it again, we can figure out how to make it work. And if it doesn't, we start again. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you so
Thank
much.
You're welcome.
you.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for tuning in.